Okay, my friends, they are not kidding. Surprise! Again! NASA spacecraft reveals Asteroid Benu is not what it seemed. Well, I can tell you what, I know what it is, and it is not what they think it is at all. Now, I'm going to tell you what, I know exactly what this is. I know exactly what the chemical compounds are here. Identical, no question whatsoever, and I will show you what they are. Now, I don't think they have them back yet, but when they get them back, I can guarantee you they will be precisely what I show you in a minute. And if I'm wrong, I will eat this foot. All right, so here, I'm going to play this. This is the layering of Benu, and they dropped down on this and figured that it was solid enough where they could kick up enough dust to pick up some particles to test. Instead, they went deep into this, and I will explain exactly why. So this is what happened. Once they blasted back off, they made all that stuff come out of there, which turned it upside down and exposed a new layer underneath. Let's see what that, and then they went back to see what actually did happen. So here's what they did. They injected nitrogen gas down in here, which made it swirl around, and then they put little collectors in the side to collect those dust, to be able to tell what it was made out of. Okay, my friends, I am going to make this a little bit mysterious for you. These are layers of a comet. Now, why would there be Asteroid Benu, actually? Asteroid Benu's surprising surface revealed by NASA's OSIRIS-REx mission. They went out to try to test what is this thing made out of. So they landed on it and it has all these layers. Now, here, listen to this.
Are nearly cohesionless, deforming under stress like a fluid.
All right, the reason is it is overly cooked by the radiation of the solar system. Okay, get ready, because here it comes. This is blasting off, shooting out all this stuff and exposing new stuff and turning over this. Watch what they expose.
OSIRIS-REx shut off its thrusters and drifted away with its sample of Benu. Almost 6 months later, on April 7th, 2021, the spacecraft returned for...
All right, when they're talking about returning and they're looking at this crater they made, and here is all the stuff around it. This will be newly exposed tissues, and these will be black and red blood, because that's what a heart is made primarily out of, is blood and tissue.
To observe its footprint. At the point of impact was a new crater, averaging...
You see this? I'm almost certain that they are, these color patterns they're showing are literally the patterns that are from the transition metals, which are iron oxides, the black and the red and the yellow. That's every heart and lung and everything from these mud fossils I have has this signature of these colors. Now, this is new, totally new, and it's down inside, and this could very well be the vein side. All right, it appears they went into a little bit of a crater. Let me show you what a heart looks like and how there's the blue areas and then there's the red areas. You always have red and black because it's completely saturated with muscle tissue, which is red and black. All right, this is what we're talking about as a heart. Now, this is the layering of the heart, which is, they said they're looking for those layers. What's going on with these layers? Now, around these layers is an area called interstitium, which is why you have all that dust and debris on the top. If you look here, you might be able to see it. I don't know if you'll be able to or not, but you see how the heart is coated with a fabric. Every organ in your body has a fabric around it called interstitium, and that is, it's a fluid-filled highway around everything, like this lung. This is also a mud fossil, and it's a lung. And that's the interstitium layer that coats it. And there's actually still blood in here. You could really get a ton of blood out of this thing. And the same thing with the heart. Now, the heart in space, when they blasted off, I believe they were in one of these areas that had the blue blood still in it. But you're always going to see that red and the black, and that's iron oxides. Iron is your blood. You got FeO2 and FeO3. Those are the two oxides of blood. One's red and one's black. And then you've got one in the mix in the middle, which is yellow. And I could show this very, very clearly. And this is what they were looking at. And I know exactly what the chemistry is here. And they got the exact same chemistry off of Comet 67P, because that is also a body part. You see that? This was a friend of mine, Phil Harris. I gave him I did a thing saying you can find your own mud fossils in 15 minutes. Just go out and start looking around. He went out and he saw this red spot. He took a hammer, cracked it, and right inside is the aorta and the pulmonary arteries and ventricles and all this kind of stuff. And here it is, red, yellow, and this will turn black. In an hour, it turned black, because that's what happens. This is the black area, but it's going to spread over everything. And the only way you can get back into red is to fracture it and get into a new area, because the red is the oxygenated. It's the Fe2O3. Has 3 oxygens. Fe2O2 is the black, and it releases an oxygen. It gets out of there. Now watch this. This is a heart. And you see this? This is the stuff that is coating Benu. And they got on some place just like this and went pew, and all of that stuff went flying away because it's been turned into dust, because it's been radiated. Basically, that's the fact. Now, here's Phil's heart after an hour. Watch what happened to that red blood. That's literally blood. And I mean, my stuff was the same way. I had actual blood coming out of my stuff. Here's his after an hour. You see it? There it is right there. It's all turning black. You still got your yellow, you got some red still left, and this is what happens. Now this is all that dusty area that would have been around the heart. This is all muscle, has changed. Now, things change differently in different environments. The ones in space don't change much at all. They are really very, very similar, only they get cooked. These were in aqueous solutions, some of them in certain chemistry that really ate them up, some of them that preserved them perfectly, like opals. Let me show you a heart, an opal. And remember these colors. These are transition metal colors. And that's what we see up on Benu, even into the blue, which would be the vein blood. Now, I had blood coming out of mine, too. You see this one here? That's a lung. And it still has all the alveoli hole-looking things here. But this fabric has gone away. That is the stuff that was on Benu that made all of the basic dust on the outside over the top of the layers. Now, this is the alveoli, and this is blood came out of these little spots, all these little red spots. And this was it, right? Well, not all of them, but there was a lot of them had actually like blobs of blood just like this coming out of them. And this one here I had DNA tested, and this is from Earth. This is not from outer space, obviously. But I took the blood right out of here, and I drilled into it, I think, like right there somewhere with a little pin drill. And this goes back 10 years ago or so. And I sent it off to be tested, and it was human DNA. And this is what preserved in what appears to be a flood, because everything I have is flat on one side. This is even a goose head. And you see the feather pattern in his head? That's feathers. Everything on the outside of these body parts turned to feldspar in watery conditions. Now, on Benu, it's a whole different story. Feldspar is invasion to chemistry by chemicals in water, aqueous solutions, transition metal aqueous solutions. The things that were out in space, they weren't watered, they weren't soaked, they weren't pushed, and all of the things flushed through it to create like rocks. Now, people look at this, they say that's a rock. No, it's not. It's a bone. That's the head of a bone. All right, and that's also feldspar, just the same as this here, because it's collagens. Every feldspar is identical in one respect. It's aluminum silicates. Aluminum bonded this to make a bond around all of the body parts. That's why they all come out in body parts. Inside is a basalt. Inside that's where the bone was, right inside there. And there's still tiny little chip of bone left in this one. That's it. But inside they turn into basalt. Same with my goose here. Caesar, that's my friend, Caesar Augustus. And that's where his neck is inside here. That's where the blood ran up to. You know, they all have arteries and they all have veins. Arteries are open. They lay open. The veins pretty much seal off because hematite is the black blood, and that's the vein blood. I'm sorry, magnetite is the black blood. That's the vein blood. Hematite is the red blood. And that's what they make iron out of. Iron is blood. So, there you have it. All right, there's a mud fossil lung. If you can't tell that's a lung, you've got problems. These are all the little entryways that come down into those alveoli. Black is the black blood. Red is the red blood. This is the blood that's in the transition between red and black. Now, this was taken out of a salt marsh in England by Gary Evans, I believe. And it dried out after a while. Let's see, this is when it was deteriorating. All right, see, this is the outside of it. And that's that interstitium. They all had that stuff coating them. Now, in space, it's totally different than in this wet condition this was in. But these are all the little blood vessels, and this is the kind of stuff you have inside of a lung. All right, now, when it dried out, only a couple of weeks, this was after a couple of weeks, it turned just like this, all dust, you see? This is the dusty part, and here's your inside red and in this case yellow, but normally it's red and black and yellow. It's just exactly what was on Benu, which is exactly what I showed you. Now, I'm going to show you Comet 67P, and it is also a body part, and it is, and I've got chemistry from that, because I followed that very closely. This is back in 2014. You see that? This is Comet 67P. This is when it was close enough to have a tail. What is a tail? The tail is not just something blowing off it. These are shooting off this way, up this way, out this way, over this way. They're not just blowing away. It's coming away from it, yes, so we see it as a tail. But these are shooting out from blood vessels. You see every one of those? That's a blood vessel coming up to service the muscle that broke off of the tendon, which is right here. And I will show you that without any question. These are the tendon anchors that held it into whatever flesh it was in. This is an artery. That's why that one's blowing out like this. These are little tiny blood vessels that service the muscles. Now, don't forget, this is 2015. You see that? So this goes back quite a ways. Okay, this is Comet 67P. It's another body part in space. This is a tendon enthesis, which means it's where they attached into the body somewhere, anchored the tendons and muscles. So this is ripped out from somewhere in the body of some creature. This dust is literally blood cells and particulate from the leaking out fluids of the body, and it's just collected here. Now, this is I believe this is muscle, and these little pinchy little they look like little lips here. You see them? Those exactly what tendon fibers and, well, not necessarily tendon fibers, but certainly muscle bundles. Now, these are tendon fibrils. No question whatsoever what these are. You see these straps? And they break off right where the muscle begins. And the muscle would take off from here and stretch out, and that's the part that pulls in and out. This is very inflexible. It's under tension, that's why they call it tendons. But it's a little bit of give between the emplacement, right down here, that never is supposed to be pulled out. This is yanked out of the body. This is supposed to give you a little bit of give, and then your muscles are supposed to pull up and down against your anchor. It's all ripped out. Now, again, muscle, I believe, little fiber bundles of muscle, tendon fibrils, almost no question about that. And this is the enthesis. The only place it gives off those comas are up in here, where it's shooting blood, where the muscle tissue would have been around here, and skin and so forth. And then there's one big artery that shoots out a gigantic blast, because you always have arteries running down and have veins running back. So that is exactly what that is some kind of a tendon enthesis, and it is huge. Now let's take a look at the chemistry. See right here, as simple as this. Here's your irons. All right, there's your iron, different types of irons. Here's your silicon, sodium, carbon, hydrogen, hydrocarbons. That's exactly what we're made of. This is exactly it. And these are the different elements of iron that are in your body are on Comet 67P. And I can guarantee you this will be almost identical, maybe just a smidge different because it might have come off of a vein versus an artery. This, to me, looks more, well, it's hard to tell. They just took a couple of little tiny things. They call them Kenneth and Juliet little particles. And in general, they had the characteristics of life. These are all the characteristics of life. And it may be just a smidge different in the heart because this is a tendon enthesis. See how big this thing is? That's an artery. Arteries are open, and this is the one that was blowing out that huge blast. And they call these dragon balls. These little balls are literally balls of blood. And they run into little blood vessels that service every single cell in any creature has to be serviced continuously, 24 hours, 7 days a week, with oxygen and all the other ingredients to make it work. If you don't have this flushing through these little tiny blood vessels and get into those cells, they die. So just think of the network of blood cells, of arteries and blood vessels. It's just staggering. One more time. Ripped out from its anchors. These were the anchors that held it in. This should have been this much into the flesh. That right there is an artery. That's the only possibility. And it was that thing that I just showed you, that big artery. And inside of it, there's a bazillion different little blood vessels because every single one of these is a little tiny blood vessel coming up to service all the tissue. Like I said, every single cell. There's millions and trillions of cells in your body, and every one continuously 24 hours a day. And it has to be serviced within a couple of minutes or you're dead. Or that cell dies. And that's what you're seeing here. And that's just not dust blowing off, as I said before. These are body parts in space. I have one here from a giant fingertip. Here it is right here. Hold on. Here it is right here. That came through space. That's a fingertip. You see on the bottom, you see that circle and that circle? There was another one here. But here had its enthesis. You see that? That's a tendon enthesis. Virtually identical to what this is. And that could be from a fingertip. And this one didn't blow the enthesis point out, but it blew off all of the extra fleshy stuff on the artery side. This is the vein side. You see that little spot right there? That's where a vein would be. That's where a vein would be. And a vein would be at the end. Arteries are here, here, and here at the very end. And that is a fingertip that came through space. Now I've done my homework on this because I have one that's from here on Earth. Hold on, this takes time to sort things out, my friends. Give me a minute. There it is. That is identical to this, only it was terrestrial. It has all of the fabric that would have been the dust on Benu and so forth. And that is all burnt off because it came through space. Now, instead of just leaking out, where this one here, you see the red blood just leaks out. This side here, you see that? That's the vein side. No leaks, because veins have clamps. And there's one at the end here that's also clamped off. Now, this just leaked out. This just leaked out. It didn't blow out. This exploded because it burnt up. But if you look at this, even the little hook, you see this little hook right here? There's a little hook right here. They're identical. You see that little tip at the end? The little tip at the end there? Identical. This side, identical. The two red spots, identical. this did not explode coming through space. This did. And all the other stuff burnt off that was the fleshy part. Now this didn't burn off, so it sort of still has surrounding it. On the bottom, you see here, you don't see what you see on this one. This one all burnt off, and you see the actual tendon emplacement balls. You see that? That's really, I mean, it's absolutely stunning the way the body is constructed, so that you can move all your little fingers and go sideways and up and down. It's just beyond belief how incredibly well designed the human body is, or any creature for that matter. They all have their own special little specialties. We have specialties really in every area. When you think about the mobility of the human body, just absolutely phenomenal. All right, so let's sum up. Again, the black and the red and the yellow, that's body tissue colors of blood. So is blue. All of this would have been fine dust on the top because of that interstitium layer, which is a layer of fluids, and it's called a fluid-filled highway, and really floppy stuff. And in space, that stuff would have burnt off and sort of just turned into dust, really. And that's what it did do, and it all blew off when they went away. And they came back to find all of these bloody tissues, which is what a heart is made out of. Well, it works with a lot of blood, let's put it that way. All right, you saw the heart, you saw all the layering of the heart, which is what they're looking for. Why does it have all those layers? And there's a whole bunch of stuff about the heart here, but primarily it's made saturated with blood and has those layers. So there's case number 2. Okay, this is Benu, and it has the shape of a heart.
Benu is ancient, a rugged survivor of the solar system's chaotic past that may hold clues to the origins of life.
Divots? There's all over the place.
In October 2020, a NASA spacecraft called...
All right, we've seen it before, the rest, but all of this stuff, this I'm sure is artist rendition, but no, I don't think it could possibly be real. But all of that other stuff was, the pictures of it, and it looks like a heart to me. All right, so this is Benu. Let's just finish it up here. These type of things here look like they could have been the entries to the heart, and sometimes the blood blows out in areas where it just bubbles out, and that's probably solid iron, almost solid iron, FeO2 or 3 or a mixture of both. I've shown it pretty clearly what's going on. And all of this stuff would be that membrane that surrounded the heart, and underneath is all those layers that I showed you on the description in anatomical. And if you don't think it comes out of space, the Kentucky meat shower, there was like an hour's worth of meat falling, 1876. A guy actually ate some and said it tasted like elk. Now, I'm going to be doing part 2 on the monsters in the Bible and the ancient texts and so forth. They said they fought in space. There was battles in the heavens. There's a lot of text about it. They were actually fighting creature against creature, and things were thrown to earth that were creatures battling each other. And I can't see any reason to dispute that anymore. And the sizes of them were it's so hard for the average mind to get to where reality is now, that very few will be able to be in reality. They will continue to just hobble along, believing what they were told by academia, and refusing God and Jesus Christ. And this is Jesus Christ is my whole reason for doing this, because I know that my speaking about these kind of crazy things, people think, oh, no, this is crazy. Is Jesus real? Is this real? Well, I am taking it, and you have to say this from your own lips out loud, that I accept Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, and my Savior, and He is the Son of God, and literally is God. This is what I've determined, and that's the way I'm presenting this. I'm not presenting this against God and Jesus Christ. I'm saying Jesus Christ came here as God, or His flesh incarnate, to come down here to say, you guys really messed up. One last chance. Next time I come back, I am closing this case. He's not coming back being a friendly to guide us next time. He came back and said, here's how you should live. Watch what they're going to do. They're going to kill me. They're going to destroy me. And I am going to let them do that. Because once you start fighting back with violence, the cycle never ends. Remember that. Violence is not the way. Just be honest and treat your neighbor like you want to be treated yourself. Do all things, the very, very basic stuff. And that leads to free will. Free will leads to the ability to do good and bad. You do bad and you're done. That was my wife saying she's back. I thought for a second it was Jesus.